What's up, guys, and welcome back to another podcast episode. And today, Toby, what are we talking about?
How to calculate your calories, or how to calculate how many calories you should be eating.
Yep, there you go. It's going to be like a super easy do-it-yourself guide. We're going to walk you through that step by step. Um, let's get into it, Toby. What do you think?
Let's.
Let's. All right. Okay, so first off, let's start with like an annoying disclaimer. And I have to. We have to. Okay. There's a lot that goes into how many calories that you burn and how many calories that you're supposed to be eating every single day. Like it's your metabolic health, your activity, your size, how much muscle mass that you have on your body, and so much more. So,
God, even the job that you work.
yeah, there you go. Like there's just so many variables that go into it. So like even if we give you step by step, it's a starting point. There's no way around it. There's no one size fits all kind of approach. Like you're going to have to do some trial and error to figure out how it sticks. It's just the name of the game, right? So these are really great guidelines to help you finding starting point. But above all, be all, you're going to have to do some trial and error because everybody's different. I mean, Toby, have you ever worked with somebody who like their quote unquote how many calories they're supposed to be eating or their metabolism is completely different than like the status quo?
Oh, yeah. It's not even just that. Like, there are so many instances where you're at in life. I just saw a little video snippet on calorie needs during pregnancy,
Mm.
right? Where you're at the height of pregnancy, so about right around your third trimester, you are burning about the same amount of calories as like a Tour de France biker. For
Wow.
It's crazy. It's like 2.5 times your normal metabolic rate. It's
Yo.
wild. So
All the food then.
all the food,
All the food.
and a lot of people try to stick to what on the internet seems to be normal, or what
Mm-hmm.
we're when we're punching in, hey, how many calories should I be eating to get to my goal, right? Because Google is great for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
We get a pretty general answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we compare that to ourselves, or when we have clients where we calculate that for them, they're like baffled,
Yeah.
right? It's because, I'm working with Chad, and Chad is 215 pounds, but Chad likes to go running in the morning, likes to lift weights in the evening, and likes to do that 7 times a week.
Oh boy.
It's like, you at that weight and with that activity, you should probably be eating quite a little bit of food, right? And then you
Yeah.
tell them, and the response is like, no,
Ah.
no, there's no way,
Yeah. And I
right?
think
So
it's a big part of it is just like diet culture. Like we've been thrown down our throat for so long that it's as simple as eat less and move more. Any answer. Like I want to be healthier, eat less and move more. I want to be more athletic and have six-pack abs, eat less and move more. I want all these different things. It's just like the answer's been you just need to eat less and move more, and it's not that at all. And I also think a lot of times people are baffled because they use things like MyFitnessPal or even Chronometer. We use that app because we prefer it a lot more. But even then, it's gonna go it's gonna provide answers that sell and or provide a lot of really fast results because that's what people are looking for. And also we have to realize what is the average person. Most average people don't move a lot. They don't care for themselves a lot. They're not very active. So if you're somebody who is like Chad, that's very active or has a lot of muscle mass, the general recommendations may not apply because you're not the normal, you're above average. So that's also something to take in consideration too. Like I currently work with a girl that's 120 pounds and she has to eat 2,800 to 3,000 just to maintain weight every single day. But then from there, there's other people like I've worked with men over 200 pounds, and just because of some of the circumstances in their life, they're eating maybe like 2,200 calories. So it's all dependent on the person. So just remember that this is just a general guideline, but like you are going to have to do some trial and error. And there's a lot of different things that go into it. But also, like you said before, there's different phases in your life, right? Where you're going to have to adjust and adapt. You can't just think, I need to be eating this certain amount of calories 24/7. I'm just fixed. Like it's as simple as that. It's not. Like as you change, as your life changes, as things adapt, you also have to adapt with how many calories you're supposed to be eating. But once you get a good understanding of how to figure that out, it actually becomes really simple. And it's actually fairly like simple to adapt and adjust as you start getting a hang of things. So
I think you touched on something very important. It's just the factor of selling.
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people in our industry, not just necessarily specializing in nutrition, but um, your fit body bootcamp style,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where they promise you a 3-month transformation
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and they give you a meal plan, and the meal plan that they give you promises results, and it looks something like 1,200 calories, very minimal amount of carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And it's about the same thing as saying it's like, hey, I'm going to give you a petri dish of bacteria and viri, and you dip your finger in it, you rub it all over your gums, and then you throw up a lot, you poop a lot, but you'll lose weight.
That's aggressive. I don't
Right?
think.
But it's
Yeah.
like just because the end outcome is weight loss doesn't mean that it was done in a sustainable fashion, doesn't mean that
Yeah.
it is recommendable. And there are so many people out there that will simply just tell you to buy my 28-day to shred program.
Yeah.
And then you get those results, and then they drop you like a hot potato just so that you go back to your old ways because you realize that without their help, you can't keep your results, right? So they're almost
Exactly.
selling you a false promise
Yeah.
with the hope that you can't keep those results after you are done with them, just
Mm-hmm.
so that you come back to them so they can sell you on the next promise. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of scumbags out in the industry.
Yeah, the
And
nutrition fitness industry is pretty large, but it is majority of it is highly unethical. It's on
yeah,
it's not very good. And like it's you got to think about it in a business model sense. Are they there to help you, or are they there to make money off of you? Because for you to be able to figure out how many calories that you need to be eating, that takes time, that takes trial and error, that takes a lot of one-on-one attention, asking lots of questions. That doesn't produce a lot of money, and that's a lot of effort for people versus somebody that's online. If I just do this really, really quick meal plan, like a monkey could give you 12 to 1400 calories and tell you to work out X amount of times to get you to lose weight. That's not fucking hard. You don't need anybody to do that, right? It's hard to get somebody to find results that make them better, both mentally and physically, but also make it sustainable. That takes time, that takes effort, that takes a lot of trial and error and a lot of one-on-one attention between the coach and the client. So the question is not necessary, like the question is, what is the intent behind it? Is it to make money off of you and really sexy marketing and kind of like a quick fix thing? Or is there somebody there to help you actually see the results and keep it and figure out what works best for you, more of a personalized approach? So just be careful where you're getting your information from. Be careful with like who you're listening to and what products or programs are you using. Is it there to actually get you results and keep it, make you better both mentally and physically, or is it there just to make a quick buck and help you get really fast results, but then, like you said, gain it back and then some? So, and I think another thing to point out, Toby, we'll wrap it up after this one. We'll get into it, but like another point is to remember that plateauing is 1,000% part of the process. Like you are going to plateau. It
it's the
is part of
goal,
the
no?
process. Yeah. Right. Like if you're going, let's say that your goal is in a fat loss phase and you're calculating your fat loss calories and you go into it, and then sooner or later, whether it's a couple weeks or a couple months, you plateau. That is going to happen, right? Like whatever goals that you have, sooner or later, you are going to plateau, and it's because your body is going to adapt. It's very, very smart, right? It's going to adapt to the things that you're doing, kind of like drinking alcohol. At first, you drink in a couple of drinks, you get tipsy after like 2 or 3. But if you keep that up over a couple of weeks or a couple of months, now it has to be 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and your tolerance is built up. It's the same thing as to hear is like your body is going to adapt, the tolerance is going to build up. And so knowing how to adapt and adjust accordingly is part of the process. So there's just a few annoying, but definitely necessary disclaimers before we dive into it. Okay.
I actually used exactly that analogy yesterday during a call.
Yeah.
In a different context, but I used the same alcohol analogy. Now,
it's the best.
Since we always say that like our passion, like we do this because we were in the need of help once. And if I would have had someone, and this is an absolute shameless plug, if I would have had somebody, if I knew back then what I know now, I would have been 12 times more successful with anything and everything I would have tried.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So since that is usually our goal, right? Educate, teach people, help. Why don't we explain how to calculate your calories, how to do it sustainably, and shed some light on what some of those things that we need to include in those calculations, what they actually are.
Yeah. Before we do that, I do want to dive into like what actually is your quote unquote metabolism, which is like what most people think of it is, but like it's actually your total daily energy expenditure, TDEE. So, you know me, Toby, I'm going to share my screen because I like visual aids.
Visuals. Yes, visuals. The second I figured out that I can like create anything and everything in Canva, I'm making so many visuals.
Yeah, I love visual aids. So, okay, so if you're on Spotify and or YouTube, you can see the video of this. If you aren't, I would highly suggest going over there because I've got a couple of things that we can share. I'm a picture book person. Visual aids help out a ton. So I've got some visual aids in front of us that you can look into. Okay, but I think it's really important to make sure that we break down what your total daily energy expenditure actually is, because I think a lot of people have it completely wrong. And that's one of the reasons why they feel like they're doing all this work and they're putting all this effort, but nothing's really happening. It's because they're grabbing at the small rocks. Like we use this a lot as an analogy. Like there's $100 bills or $50 bills, there's $5 bills, like everything has value. But if we grab after the $100 bills and the $50 bills first, and put effort into that, the needle's going to move forward faster than if we're putting all the effort into fives and tens and we're like, I'm doing all this work, but the needle's not moving forward the way that I want. It's like, it's because you're just focusing on the wrong things first. So we're just going to like shed some light, help you kind of triage things so that way you can grab after the $100 bills and build some momentum and do it the right way, I guess you would say. Okay. So I've got the visual aid here. So the way that the metabolism works, it's broken up into 4 different sections of like how you burn your calories. So the first one is going to be your BMR, basal metabolic rate. And this is where you're at when you're just laying down. Okay. Like you're just laying down, chilling, like chilling on the couch or something like that. And you're burning calories.
Photosynthesis. You're existing.
Yeah. You're just existing.
You're just there.
So if you see on the graphic, that counts for 60% of the calories that you burn in the day. Okay. So just laying down there. So the big things that affect your BMR is going to be, one, how much muscle mass that you have on your body. Lots of muscle mass, lots of calories burned. That's why you see people who have more muscle mass tend to be leaner than those that don't, just because they naturally just burn more calories at
Staying
rest.
in shape is easier than getting in shape because of this.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. But some other things that a lot of people don't consider that has a huge effect in your BMR is things like your overall health, like your hormonal health, like your thyroid has a huge hand in your metabolism. So that's another thing. And then your metabolic history, like your overall metabolic health. So we were talking about before, if you have been dieting and or under eating for a long period of time, your metabolism is going to adapt. It's going to become very efficient on eating very little calories. And so if you're somebody that has been dieting since you can remember, or you've never really known how many calories you should be eating every single day, that's not in a calorie deficit. This is called maintenance calories. Then your metabolic health might not be so great. So improving that could make things a lot easier. It can help you be healthier as well. But there's a lot more other variables. Am I missing any?
In terms of what makes up your basal metabolic rate?
Yeah.
Probably 1 or 2, but
I think those are the big rocks.
I was about to say it's oftentimes like the more complexity and details we add, the more white noise we're also adding, right? It's like
Yeah.
20% of the things make up 80% of your overall progress and results. So
Hmm.
what if we focused mainly on those 20% and made that our 80% of things we do, and we just block out a
The white
large
noise.
chunk of that white noise?
Yeah.
Imagine how much beyond those 80% you would be.
Yeah. And I like this. I use this analogy a lot with my clients. It's if we did like 5 billion, or like if we did 5 different things right now, you'd be half-assed in 5 different things. But if we did like 1 to 2 things and you put your full ass into it, ooh, wouldn't we get better faster? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, so we full ass things at here and thriving on. So we're gonna full ass and put all of our effort into 1 to 2 things instead. So I use that analogy. So that
Yes, even if you're doing the wrong thing, right?
yeah.
It's shit hits the fan, make sure the fan's running full speed. So,
Okay, so the next thing is going to be NEAT. This accounts for about 15 to 20% of the calories that you burn. So the first one is 60%. So if you're going to put any effort into it, like build more muscle mass, become a healthier human being, you can even dive into optimizing your hormonal health too, if that's something that you want to dive into. But generally, if you just do the basics for a while, manage your stress, eat good nutrition, work out regularly, sleep, things like that, your hormonal health is probably going to be
yes,
pretty
one
decent.
thing before we dive into the other three. So,
Hmm.
disclaimer, we're talking about four big things, and
Yeah.
BMR is something that you can't influence quickly.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
something that takes a while to be sped up,
Yeah.
right? Now, the other three, on the other hand, you can influence much more rapidly, right? We
Yeah.
can do something about that today.
Hmm. Yeah. So again, the NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is going to be about 15 to 20% of the calories that you burn. So it's going to be the next big rock. So this accounts for like walking around, fidgeting. If you're like me and very animated, like all my clients see how much I move my hands, and the new feature on Zoom, and also I think it's on Google Meets and things like that, where if you do certain hand gestures, it
Oh,
makes
it
like
makes
icons.
all the time. Like I can't even, I found so many because I just use my hands to
Oh yeah, same
talk
here.
a lot,
At first it
and
was fun, but now it's
it's
annoying
getting
as
annoying. I
hell.
know.
Oh my god. Like I remember being in the middle of a conversation. It was a little bit more of a serious one too.
And you get
And
fireworks,
yeah, something like that. Or like
balloons.
something like that. And I was
Yeah.
like, I did not mean to do that. I'm so sorry. Well, luckily it would like lighten up the mood and it was still a really great conversation, but like poor timing, man. Poor timing. So yeah, it's just like basic movement, fidgeting, walking.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we're like, hey, walking is really fantastic to add in when you're trying to make a fat loss phase easier. But it's also just showing you that people who are just generally active, they don't spend a lot of time on the couch. They go out and they live their life. They celebrate their life through movement and things like that. We all see those people that are just healthy and they just move a lot. They do a lot of activities. Those people are going to burn more calories and generally maintain a leaner physique than those that are sedentary, that spend a lot of time in their house. They sit a lot, maybe have a desk job. It's just going to be a little bit harder. So that's just something to kind of pour into, is not just like, how can I just add 10K steps, but like, how can I become an active human being? How can I live my life through movement and celebrate that as well? That's going to be a really big one. So the next is going to be thermal effect of food. So TEF, that accounts for about 10 to 15% of the calories that you burn within the day. And yes, you burn calories while eating food.
Well, it's the process of breaking the food down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Digesting it,
Yeah.
absorbing it, eliminating it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the cool thing here is that we need to now account for that not every calorie is created equal, right?
Yeah.
Just because I'm eating 2,000 calories doesn't mean that I'm going to burn the same amount of calories. There are certain types of food, like protein, for example, that your body has a much harder time digesting,
Yeah.
breaking down.
As a high thermal effect of food.
Absolutely. So when we want to put things into perspective, um, the calories that you get from protein, it takes your body about anywhere from 20 to 30% of those calories that I consumed to now break them down. So if I eat 1,000 calories worth of protein, I retain about 700 to 800 of those. The other 200 to 300 are used to break down, absorb, and eliminate, like poop out the food.
Yep.
Carbohydrates is, research varies, but the average around 5 to 10, whereas fat is 0 to 3, right? So if I have very fatty and greasy food compared to 2,000 calories worth of whole foods, like, like something that I cooked in my own kitchen, like a very nice, I had this grapefruit almond chicken salad yesterday, which was delicious, right? But my body used a lot more calories to burn that compared to burning the burger that I had the night before.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
100%. And another thing to point out is fiber too. Fiber takes it takes a lot of energy to put that through your system too. So generally people who eat a high fiber and a higher protein diet and don't overeat on fatty, greasy foods tend to have a higher thermal effect than those that don't. So those are quick tips that you can add really fast into your diet. Leaning towards that can help out a little bit. Again, it's nothing like your BMR, that's 60%, but it's still something to grab at. You do that over a period of time, do it for about 6-12 months, you more than likely will see some really great changes in that. And then finally, and this is like a big misconception, is that the exercise that you do in the gym accounts for a lot of calories. Like my watch told me I burned 1,000 calories today, which by the way, if you're dictating how many calories that you burn in a watch, that's
please
not
don't.
even, please don't. Like it's not even worth your time. Like I think I saw a study that showed that, I can't even remember. Do you remember how inaccurate some of the watches are? It just depends. I know that Garmin and like Apple watches and Fitbits, I think, tend to be more accurate than others. But like the error for the room for error is extremely high in those watches. It's like not even worth trying to use.
No,
at that point.
If you really want to, because you just love it, use it as a trend. So if your ongoing number of calories burned is higher than it was before, you're probably burning more calories, but don't make it out to be exactly that same number.
Yeah. And don't add in back in calories from working out. Like when you do this equation, it should take into account how many calories you're burning according to your activity level.
Again,
so please do not add in calories according to what your watch is.
That is why it is called total daily energy expenditure. If this is calculated properly, your average time spent working out is already accounted for.
Yeah.
This is a big thing that a lot of tracking apps, when they calculate, they show you that number, and that's what throws a lot of people off.
Yeah.
Right? But this is one of the few reasons why people say you can't out-train a poor diet. And a lot of people make exercise out to be that great equalizer.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I didn't get to go to the gym today, so all of my progress is lost, so I might as well eat like an asshole. I apologize my language. But it's so unfair to yourself to have that kind of a mindset, because
it's not transactional, man.
The steps that you take, the overall movement is 3 to 4 times as important. The food that you eat is 2 to 3 times as important, right? So if we're looking at this in terms of grades, if you're earning an A in, your BMR, you kind of can't influence like in the moment, right? So you will burn the calories at rest that you burn today, but your steps, if you make sure you get the normal amount of steps, maybe even more. You can't drive to the gym, work out for an hour, and drive back. You don't have those 90 minutes, but you have 35 minutes to go on a walk. Do that.
Yeah. 100%.
Right? You have a choice of what kinds of foods you make. You can't afford to go 90 minutes to the gym, but you can spend 45 minutes in the kitchen to cook yourself a proper lunch. Do that. This will more than likely be actually more beneficial for you than going to work out just to earn yourself the calories to have the pizza.
Yeah, exactly. And like this also goes into the people that are extremely nervous to take rest days, which by the way, rest days are necessary. They're not negotiable. They're non-negotiable. You need rest days. Okay. But if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not working out today, so I need to restrict all of my calories and eat half. No, don't, please. Like, please stop that. It's not good for you mentally,
No,
and it's definitely not good for you physically either to just chronically just work out every single day because you are scared that you're going to gain weight. Like it's
right?
only 5%.
Yes. And if you are like
5%.
most people and you have acquired a bunch of plants over COVID, you may have experienced what happens when you overwater a plant,
Yeah.
right? You overwater a plant, you underwater a plant. Either way, your plant doesn't have the greatest life, right? It's the same thing. You don't exercise at all, or you exercise way too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably not the best for you.
Yeah. 100%. And so another thing that I want to point out, because we're talking about our BMR is the biggest thing. Well, the cool thing is when you dive into these other things like NEAT, TEF, and EAT, okay, so your movement, your food, and your workouts, that can, if you do it well, positively affect your BMR. So, for example, if your exercise is leaning more towards strength training, you're prioritizing that. But you also get some really good cardiovascular health, like cardio in the gym too, right? And then you also make sure that you're eating a high protein and high fiber diet, which can help with just being a healthier human being as well, improve your internal health, so much more. And you just generally move more, you're a more active person. That all aids into increasing your BMR. Okay.
Over
So
time.
over time, yes, over time. So the beautiful thing is that will the BMR change right now? No. But diving into the top three, your exercise, your thermal effective food, and your NEAT, over time, if you continuously do that, you will start seeing an overall approach. It's kind of like tides raising all ships. Okay. So that's just a little bit into your metabolism, because I think it's super important to understand how this actually works. So that way you can make very educated decisions about what you need to be doing versus maybe what you learn from diet culture BS or allowing our emotions to dictate our actions. Because sometimes, I mean, emotions are important, but sometimes our emotions aren't always reality. So leaning into facts, leaning into science. I know when I was dealing with a lot of anxiety with my nutrition and fitness and really trying to figure out how I was going to do this thing without falling off again, leaning into this kind of stuff really helped and made me feel empowered. So hopefully this helps you guys too. But from there, let's go into how many calories that you should be eating every single day. So one thing I want to point out before we get into that is because most people are like, okay, now I need to calculate how many calories I need to be eating to go into a calorie deficit. And I'm like, no, dieting is not a lifestyle. You know what you should be eating majority of the time? Your ideal maintenance calories, which I don't think most people even know what that is. So when to just simplify what your ideal maintenance calories is, it's just basically the amount of calories that you should be eating every single day, majority of the time. Okay. Majority of the time, you should be eating this many calories, and then spending very little amount of time, let's say in a calorie surplus or in a calorie deficit in comparison to the amount of time that you should be eating in maintenance calories. So it's like basically AKA living. So the amount of calories that you're eating should equal the amount of calories that you're burning. Okay. So that's something that I don't think a lot of people are very familiar with and or have never actually found out what their maintenance calories are. And that's one of the big reasons why they're really struggling with seeing the results that they're looking for, but also feeling great in it and it also being sustainable as well. So when we talk about maintenance calories, okay, let's talk about the different ways to figure out what your ideal maintenance calories is. Because actually, no, I want to backtrack. I skipped a step. Toby, can you go over why we want to focus on ideal maintenance calories? Because a lot of people are like, but I don't want to eat maintenance calories.
Yes.
That doesn't sound good. I want to eat in a calorie deficit probably.
Absolutely.
Why should even people want to be eating that majority of the time?
Yeah, you already beautifully touched on that your body over time will adapt to the amount of calories that you're consuming. Now, your body can't just magically decide how many calories it wants to burn or not to burn.
Mm-hmm.
What will happen is your body will adjust that by starting and stopping certain processes. Your body will prioritize, just like we should, your body will too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, if you have been under eating, meaning eating under the total amount of your ideal maintenance calories that we'll get into in a little bit, your body will burn or will build less muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, your body will now digest or break down that muscle mass to get to some of the carbohydrates that are inside of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we just said when we were talking about your basal metabolic rate, the more muscle mass you carry, the more calories you burn at rest. So now that is one way for your body to burn less calories and adapt to the calories that you're taking in, because your body only cares about survival and procreation. The body's pretty primal, right? It's what happens between the ears that makes you want to gain or lose weight. And your body will say, hey, you don't get a lot of food. Let me not have a lot of muscle. Let me stop some of these internal processes that we don't need. Like your nails don't have to be super strong.
Mm-hmm.
Your hair doesn't have to be very thick. Your hormones don't have to be made in the amount that they're made right now.
Mm-hmm.
Your skin doesn't have to be clear. Your immune system doesn't have to be intact, right? Because your body is trying to avoid the most current threat.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of these things stop, and your body will now burn less calories through stopping these processes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't sound very healthy. So in order for us to be as healthy as we can be, which that should be the main goal, the favorite influencer that you see that's just shredded beyond his ears, or that just lifts the most absurd amount of weight, they are not the healthiest they can be.
Mm-hmm.
They will have issues and they won't be able to keep that up. So the overall goal is, yes, to get you to look better, to get you to perform better, but also to get you to live longer.
Yes.
And we need to have those healthy processes that may not be essential right now. We have to make sure that they're active, that they're running, right? The amount of muscle mass that you have will directly impact how vital of a life you live when you get older.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now if I'm eating below my maintenance calories for a very, very long time, those things will not be given and you will not live the best life that you can.
Yeah.
But by strategically getting yourself back to maintenance calories, you're slowly but surely giving your body the okay to kick those processes back into gear. Mm-hmm. And this is now where this whole magic thing happens, where we share about clients that work with us all the time. Hey, Jody ate 700 more calories every day and already lost 8 pounds.
Yeah. Like one of your clients, David, when he first started working with us, we increased his calories by like 1,200, I think, something crazy like that. And I think we decreased the amount of activity because he was one of those people who's just like one right after
working
another,
out, running, and he just
just
generally loves to be active. He doesn't do it because he thinks he has to. He just generally loves being active.
Yeah, and so he was just not properly fueling his body. As soon as we got him to his ideal maintenance calories, like his body was just clicking, like it was dropping inches. He was gaining muscle mass. His in-body was looking freaking great. So while he was eating more calories, he was looking leaner. He was also feeling better. He was healthier. He was building muscle tissue. It's just, I think we're diving into this because a lot of people are like, no, I'm overeating all the time. And
yes.
I think that there is a population of people that potentially is just chronically overeating and needs to understand how many calories that they need to be eating so that way they don't get they don't gain weight. But I think a lot of the people, at least that listen to us, they're the type of people who, again, have been the people that have been just taught, I just need to eat less and move more all the time. And they widely underestimate how many calories that they need to be eating. No, I could never eat that many calories. That's not accurate at all. I totally get fat on that. And so what has happened is that even though that they are under eating, they're like, you can't under eat and gain fat. And I'm like, okay, you do have to be in a calorie surplus, but this is how generally it works for a lot of people. They've been chronically under eating for a long period of time. Okay. So their metabolic health declines. So they're burning less calories every single day. And then so they do even more drastic diets that cause them to lose more muscle mass, slow down their metabolism, their internal health doesn't feel great. And then they fall off of it. And then they just overeat. And so their metabolism is super low. So when they start eating like a normal person, or they go into another binge cycle because they just failed again, now they start gaining more weight. And then they go back to another deficit, like under eating and maintaining the weight. And then they binge. It's just like a mad binge restrict cycle. So that's how you can gain weight, from simply just under eating and causing yourself to have a poor metabolism. It's not inherently that if you just keep eating in a calorie deficit, you're just going to somehow gain weight. It's the time when you're not eating in a calorie deficit that you cause that. And it's a lot easier when you have a metabolism of a rabbit, right? To gain a lot of weight because you're just going out to dinner to enjoy dinner with your significant other. And now you're eating so many calories, which would be a normal amount of calories to a normal person with a healthy metabolism. It wouldn't affect them as much. That's why you
Now
see.
imagine this analogy backfires and rabbits like comes out. We do research and they burn like 5,000 calories a day.
Oh man, damn.
I actually have no idea.
I don't either. But if that happens, I will gladly correct myself. Right. But it just goes to show that under eating is no better than overeating. Dieting is not a lifestyle. You cannot keep under eating over and over and over again. Some of the most unhealthy people we have ever worked with, Toby, are the ones that chronically undereat. Like we've had people with 6-pack abs and they're like, I don't know why I feel like crap every single day. And we look at the blood work and it's like they have the blood work of somebody that's like 20 to 30 years their senior, like postmenopausal when they're like in their 30s right now. Right. So it's just make sure that we know and we understand that ideal maintenance calories is what we need to be doing majority of the time to just have a really great healthy metabolism. So it's easier for us to see results. It's easier for us to maintain those results as well. But also it supports really great internal health, your hormonal health and gut health. It also supports really great muscle building, which is fantastic for you. Right. And it also supports really great mental health too. Your brain is an organ just like anything else. If you're like, oh, it makes sense why my gut's not working or my hormones are not working, it's because I'm under eating. It also makes sense why you might be struggling with some mental side of things like poor productivity, moodiness, irritability. Maybe you're a little bit more anxious than usual or depressed. Like that was 1,000% me. When I was chronically dieting, you should have painted a middle finger on my forehead. I was miserable to be around. And my anxiety and my depression, my body dysmorphia, my relationship with food was the all-time worst it was ever been. Right. So it just makes sense. The brain is like an organ just like anything else. If we want it to function well, if we want to have really great mental health, we need to make sure that we're actually eating enough calories. Like dieting is not a lifestyle. I can't say that enough. I cannot say that enough.
Actually think it was Marcus Philly. So for the people who are like in the CrossFit scene, it's like Marcus Philly used to be a CrossFit Games athlete, but is now more on like a functional bodybuilding side of things. And I think it was last year sometime, he actually went on a podcast episode saying that he calls it gaintenance. It's eating maintenance calories, but training with the goal to build muscle, but eating with the goal to support your activity but be as healthy as you can be is the holy grail.
Yes,
right? So eating maintenance calories, working out, making sure that you're eating like that you're maximizing your TEF, your thermic effect of foods, by eating lots of protein, lots of fruits and vegetables to get your fiber up, minimal processed foods, and doing that for most part or most of the time. That's like the holy grail. Will your results come in slower? Maybe. Yeah. But they will stay for far longer.
And the outcome is going to be way better.
Yes.
So while we're saying majority of the time should be in maintenance calories, that doesn't mean that you can't spend time in a calorie deficit and or a calorie surplus. Just be strategic with it. Understand that both of them can be a little bit stressful on the body. So we can't be in it for too long. But
I think it's
being,
fair to say that they are.
yeah,
Like,
they are stressful. And you can take some extremes to it. There are people that are willing to lose fat a little bit faster than others, but a general recommendation, this is a very general recommendation. There's always exceptions. It's not even a rule. It's just a guideline right now, okay? Is like, let's say that you want to be in a calorie deficit, you want to lose fat. For majority of people, it's going to be anywhere from 8 to 14 plus ish weeks, maybe once to twice a year. The rest of the time, let's be in at least maintenance calories. If you want to explore being in a calorie surplus, like a small one, go for it. But majority of the year, you should be in maintenance. I love that.
yes,
Like
yes.
maintenance.
You should be, now, if we want to get a little bit more specific, it should be for every week that you spend in a deficit or in a surplus, you should follow that up by an equivalent amount of weeks
Mm-hmm.
at least spent in maintenance range.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so with all those behind, we just wanted to cover our bases because we just want to make sure we're doing this right. Let's go into step by step of how to calculate your ideal maintenance calories. Okay, so one is going to always be, you always got to start with awareness. Okay, you got to figure out what you're currently doing now before you can actually know what you need to be doing next. So this is also a red flag if you're ever working with somebody or do a program where they just feed you how many calories that you need to be eating without creating awareness of what you're currently doing. Run away, please run away. Okay. So the way that we want you to explore this is by just taking an average of how many calories that you're eating within a 5 to 7 day period, right? So if you don't already have this, download a tracking app. We prefer Chronometer. We like that a lot more than, like, let's say MyFitnessPal. There's a few other apps, but we really love Chronometer. So download an app, and then from there, just track everything that you eat and drink that has calories in it. Make sure you're using a food scale. Make sure that you're not estimating things. And then also just be very, very honest. Do not change anything. Because a big thing that a lot of people do, and it's understandable, but when you start actually paying attention to what you're putting in your mouth, you're subconsciously going to start making better choices because you're like, ooh, icky, I don't want to put down that I ate 3 donuts. So maybe I'll put down that I had 1 donut. I guess that's okay. Or like, oh, I usually go out and drink a couple beers with my friends, but I'm tracking my food. So I'm not going to do that while I'm tracking my food because I don't want to feel that ickiness of owning what I'm currently doing. Okay. So we're going to tell you to lean into the ickiness because if you do not know what you're currently doing now, how do you know what's going wrong? How do you know what strings to pull? How do you know where to start? So just be as honest as possible with yourself on what you currently do and just own it. Because trust me, it's going to help you out a lot. And then another point is, since when has running away or brushing things underneath the rug ever been a solution to your problems? It never has. Like, we need to face our problems head on and kind of own our actions, but it's really quite freeing, right? Damsel in distress has to have somebody free you. Hero of your story owns your shit and takes action on your own. So it's very empowering. So just make sure that you're being very honest. Even on the days that you struggle, let's say that you're like, ooh, icky, I don't want to track on the weekends. It's like, maybe we should be tracking more on the weekends if you feel that feeling, because usually that shows us where the problem is and we need to address it. So just a little tidbit there. So make sure that you're being honest. Then once you find about a 5 to 7 day tracking and honest recording of that, what you're going to do is take those numbers and average it. So I'm going to share my screen and show you guys a little bit of a visual. Okay. Pulling it up. Here it is. Okay. Oh, come on. Present. There you go. Okay. So let's say that it's Jenny here, and she tracked her calories. She noticed that on Monday, she ate 1,800, Tuesday is 2,200, Wednesday, 2,500, and so on and so forth. Okay. It's a little bit ups and downs and inconsistency. She'll add that up and average it out. And when she averages out the whole week, 7 days, it comes to 2,029 calories on average for the week. Okay. So once you find that number, hold on to that because that's going to come in later. Okay. Then from there, the next step is going to be, you're going to calculate your estimated ideal calories. Okay. So your estimated ideal calories is something that you can get from a calculation. This is something that we usually generally start with our clients, but with understanding that it's going to take some trial and error, but it's a general guideline to just get started with. So, Toby, can you go over like what are your favorite methods to calculating your ideal maintenance calories?
Yes, I like two different ways.
Mm-hmm.
One for having a little bit more cognitive bandwidth, and one for just really looking for a relatively basic approach.
Yeah. Let's start with the
Right?
basic one first.
Absolutely. For that, I really like the Aragon formula, which was created by Alan Aragon, who's probably one of the pioneers in this whole evidence-based nutrition
Mm-hmm.
approach. And what we do is we take our, if current weight is applicable. So if I'm 5'10" and I'm 185 pounds, that's pretty accurate. But if I don't mean to step on anybody's toes, but if I'm morbidly obese and I'm 5'6" and I'm 347 pounds, that's not applicable. So I would choose a target weight.
Yep.
But I multiply that by 10 plus my hours of weekly activity. And by activity here, we mean workouts,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I work out, let's say I'm 200 pounds and I work out 5 days a week for an hour, I would take 200 times 15.
Mm-hmm.
And that is on average with the current lifestyle that I'm living right now. I would be shooting right around 3,000 calories.
Yep. Yep. So here's some examples. All right. Here's Judy. Judy weighs 150 pounds, which, by the way, if you don't have the video up, I'm showing some examples. Again, I'm a picture book type of person. So Judy here, she weighs 150 pounds. She works out 3 hours a week. So what we're going to do is take 150 because that is her weight. She's not morbidly obese. So we're just going to take her weight. Then we're going to multiply that by 10 plus 3. So that's 13. And so her estimated ideal amount of calories that she should be eating majority of the time should be about 1,950 calories. Okay. So let's look at Chad. Chad over here, he looks serious. He looks like a businessman.
Just because he is. I mean, with a name like Chad, you have to be serious.
Yeah.
Right?
Chad weighs 200 pounds and he works out 5 hours a week. Okay.
Oh, that's exactly what I just said.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, here's another visual aid. So 200 times 10 plus 5, 15 equals 3,000 calories. Super simple. Yes. Okay. Not the most accurate equation, but it's really applicable. It's really, really simple.
You would be surprised. It's not too far off.
Yeah. No, it's not. That's why we use this. We're not going to give you something that's really, really off. So, but it's really, really simple for people that are just like, I don't want to overcomplicate things. Like, it's a really good one. Okay. So what's the next one, Toby?
Yes. And this is now for if you have a little bit more cognitive bandwidth, if you like numbers, if you like data, because we need a little bit more. The Mifflin-St. equation. The reason why we like that one is we said at 100% how many calories you burn, right? Unless you have some Star Wars type gadget that can scan everything of your internals, it'll always be an estimate, right? Hence why Casey has been saying trial and error. It takes time. With that being said, every equation has a little bit of error to it, right? Nothing is ever 100% accurate, right? There's false negatives, false positives with all kind of tests. And just like your COVID test isn't always 100% accurate, neither are your equations in terms of calories, right? But research on this topic has found that the Mifflin-St. equation has the least amount of inaccuracy. So your best bet is always going to be to go with the thing that is the least inaccurate.
Yep.
Right? Now, the reason why this takes a little bit more cognitive bandwidth, because there's a lot more numbers involved. And it's going to be different between male and female clients. we ideally we need to know how to convert between kilograms to pounds because I believe the guy was French.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So, in general, in science, things use kilograms over the imperial system.
Yeah.
So, there's just a little bit more to it, but it's a little bit more accurate.
Yeah. So the good news is that Toby actually, because he's got what's it called? Coding skills. There you go. I was going to say programming skills, but no, it's coding skills. He put together a TDE calculator using this formula. So you don't have to worry about that ins and outs and everything like that. So below in the show notes, you can grab the link below to our TDEE calculator, which it uses this equation. So you just input the information. I'll share my screen. I got a picture here.
Yes, and it does everything for you. If you would like to enter your weight in pounds, height in inches, weight in kilograms, height in centimeters.
Yeah. It's super, super simple. Just put it on there. It'll spit out how many calories that you should be eating in ideal maintenance calories. And then also, it'll even give you estimated calories of how many, what calories you should be eating if you want to go in a calorie surplus or a calorie deficit, if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, if you want to be a little bit more slower on things. It'll give you a breakdown of that. So, Toby, thank you so much for doing that because it looks freaking amazing. But that's there for you as well to figure out your ideal maintenance calories. Okay, so once we have those, what we're going to do is take your current daily caloric average, what you did from the 5 to 7 days, you took that, and you're going to compare it to your ideal maintenance calories, the estimated that you got from one of those equations. Okay, and what you'll notice for some people, it may look different. Okay, so if it does look different, there's going to be different routes to what you need to be doing in order to get you to your ideal maintenance calories to figure out a really great baseline and really support muscle building, a good leanness to the body, also good internal health, mental health, and so much more. Okay, so if you are somebody who is, I got visuals on this one. Hold on, let me share my screen. Okay. Boom. Okay. If you are somebody who is below, let's say 15% or more, according to your quote unquote ideal maintenance calories. So for example, Judy here, she had an average of 1850. Okay. Because 15% lower than her ideal maintenance calories, which she calculated was 2,300, is 1950 or lower. So if she's eating lower than 1950, then her next step is going to be reverse dieting. Okay. Most people have not ever heard of reverse dieting. So this can be a whole nother podcast episode that we can dive into on what reverse dieting is. But just to give you a quick summary, this is a strategic way to slowly increase the calories that you're eating while mitigating the amount of fat that you're gaining as well. Because it takes time for your metabolism to adapt back up. So if you're having a lower metabolism and you just start eating your ideal maintenance calories right now, the next day, you're now in a calorie surplus because your metabolism has adapted over a period of time. Okay. So increasing it slower can help your metabolism adapt with that and mitigate as much fat gain as possible. And you can also really, especially if you lean into strength training, start building muscle tissue. So if the weight does go up on the scale, if you do it correctly, you more than likely will gain a lot of muscle mass during that time. We've had plenty of clients during that time where they might see the scale go up a couple of pounds, but they're seeing the inches go down and they're looking better and they're feeling better. It's just because you're just adding the stimulus of I'm getting healthier. I'm also building muscle tissue during that time. I'm putting those calories that I'm putting into my body to good use. So a general guideline, again, very, very rough guideline. It depends on the person, is increasing your calories every 50 or by 50 to 150 calories every 1 to 3 weeks until you find your ideal maintenance calories, right? Or until you hit that. Okay.
Yes.
So general
fair disclaimer. If you see your weight go up slightly, that is normal.
Yes.
So watch your weight closely. It should go up by about 2%.
Yeah.
So if I'm 150 pounds, I can expect or I want to be at about 153. This is normal.
Mm-hmm.
This will stabilize over time.
Mm-hmm.
This is most likely water weight from an increase in carbohydrates. So it's not fat,
Yeah.
it's water. It'll come
Also,
off very easily.
you're eating more food. Food has physical weight. Your weight is going to go up if you put more actual food in your body.
That's right.
So,
If you eat 5 pounds of apple and you're only 100 pounds, you will now be 105 pounds, which will be, you will now actually be only 95% human and 5% apple.
thanks for the tidbit there. Okay, so your next step is going to be reverse dieting up. That's just going to help you slowly increase your calories over a period of time so you don't gain a lot of weight and you're not going to us like, Casey, Toby, you told me to start eating my ideal maintenance calories and I gained weight and blah, blah, blah. It's probably because you just didn't reverse diet. Do that and it should help with that. Okay, that's what we do with all of our clients in that position. Okay, so let's say that you are eating above 250 calories from your ideal maintenance calories. So let's say Chad right here, looking all serious in his suit. Okay. His ideal maintenance calories is like 2,900 calories, but he's averaging 3,250 or above. Okay. Then what you need to be doing is kind of take it in the reverse effect. So reverse dieting is slowly increasing your calories up. We would suggest you just do the reverse, slowly decrease your calories every 1 to 3 weeks by 50 to 150 calories to your ideal maintenance calories. So that way you can get down and stop gaining weight. Okay. Now, what happens if you can see somebody jumping right there, the visual. I loved that picture when I picked it. I was like, we got to find somebody jumping up and down. We got to have some fun with this. Okay. If you're within the range of 15% under or 250 calories over. So within that range. So for example, let's say that what's her name right here? I haven't heard her name. Pamela? I love
Pamela.
You go, Pamela. Oh, you go, Glen Coco. Can we call her Glen? Glen Coco.
Sure. I don't know who that is.
So Glen Coco's ideal maintenance calories is 2,100 calories. And she's averaging anywhere from like 1,800 to 2,300 calories. Okay, within that. Okay, congratulations. You're within a decent range of your ideal maintenance calories. So we just suggest you to just potentially just go straight into your ideal maintenance calories. Just start eating that way and see how your body changes. If your weight goes up, then you're in a calorie surplus.
Focus on changing what you eat and not how much you eat at this point.
Yes, and also going into maintenance. Lifts heavy weights, just be an active human being, lots of protein, fruits and vegetables, properly fuel your body, just maybe work on the systems that you have, like meal prepping, all these different things just to make it easier and more routine so you don't really have to think about it so much. So just things like that.
Yeah,
that's what
think of it this way. If you're trying to look fit, you probably have to live fit first.
Yeah.
So you have to do what a fit person would do.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that is how you find how many calories you should be eating majority of the time right there. Okay. So here's a few things that we want to take in consideration before we let you go. So some things to keep in mind. One, there is a high amount of room for error. High amount. A lot of times people widely under or overestimate things like how active they actually are, or they completely, like, especially if you're a newbie to tracking, people widely under track a lot.
Yes.
If they don't know
Fair disclaimer, most people will probably overestimate how active they are.
Yeah. Right. So there's a lot of room for error. Just understand that. Also, the skills that you need to adapt to figure this out takes time. So if you don't know how to properly track your food, if you don't know how to meal prep, if you don't know how to create like a routine or a system that you rely on week after week so you can create the consistency that you're looking for. Maybe you're still learning how to make healthier choices, go grocery shopping, things like that, or learning how to do this despite being busy or traveling, weighing and measuring your food. Like, these things are skills. I think that they're wonderful skills. You don't have to do them 24/7 through the rest of your life, but I think they're really great skills to have in your toolbox to properly educate you, help you create the change that you want without spinning your wheels, and so much more. But they take time to adapt. So if you're somebody that's starting on chapter 1, just give yourself some time to get really good at the tools. The better that you get at the tools, the better results that you will get over a period of time.
It's like riding a bicycle, right? Most of the time you don't use your bicycle, But when you want to, it's pretty nice to know how to ride a bike.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Another thing is that tracking your food and weighing yourself consistently can come with like mental ups and downs, like especially if you struggle with relationship with food and self issues. Okay. So I think honestly, if you are somebody who is struggling with these things, again, like I said before, brushing them underneath the rug and or avoiding them isn't always the answer. A lot of times when I have clients that are struggling with these things, sometimes we have to actually expose ourselves little by little over a period of time and feel the ickiness, because when has avoiding things or brushing things underneath the rug ever been the answer? It hasn't. It's a very common tactic that practices within therapy. It's exposure therapy. And I actually used to coach a therapist, and he said this one thing, and it just really stuck. And I always use this. It's the boogeyman will always stay the boogeyman until you invite them into your bed, and then they become a best friend. Like if you truly want freedom from food, if you truly want freedom from the weight on the scale and things like that, it is not avoiding it, because sooner or later you're going to have to like bake food, track your food, own what you're eating in the day, or go to the doctor's office and weigh yourself or get blood work done and see those things. And as soon as you get exposed to them, right back to you were square one. You're
See,
still
who knew?
triggered.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Your significant other's your boogeyman. Joke's on you.
Dang it. But if you like, true freedom is being able to step on the scale or track your food or things like that, and it not elicit any emotion at all. It's neither good or bad. It just is kind of like brushing your teeth or something like that. Like
It's data.
It's just data. It's just a number. That's true freedom. And you can't get that from avoiding. Okay. So if you are somebody that struggles with it, okay, it comes with ups and downs, and that's part of the process. And going through those is, for a lot of people, is what you need to be doing. So if you're going through that, you might see some ups and downs again. Okay. And for a lot of people, like we were talking about before, like Toby said, is like, oh, I should never be eating that many calories. I'd gain so much weight, blah, blah, blah. The idea of eating more calories can throw people into like a mental spiral. Okay. This can cause them to go back to what they were doing before, but it wasn't working. For a lot of people, it's not working in the first place, but it's what you're familiar with. So you'll go back to what you're doing before and keep in that cycle that you keep going into. So getting past that idea of I shouldn't be eating calorie or this much food, it's bad for me, I'm going to gain weight, all these different things. That's something that you might have to work through, which can come with a lot of mental ups and downs. Like I always say this with people, like learning how many calories that you need to be eating, which by the way, these equations you can find almost anywhere. This is common practice. We're not pulling this out of our butt being like, this is the brand new way. Like any nutrition coach that really knows what they're doing usually uses these equations. That's not the hard part. It's this shit, the emotional shit, because we're human beings. We're not robots. These are the hardest parts of this. Okay. So just be prepared for that if you're somebody that struggles with it. And then also, like, most people have families and loved ones and jobs, and they also want to live their lives. And it can be really hard to find the balance between the two. Those are some struggles with that. So if you're somebody that's on that side of things where you're just like, yeah, I struggle with the ups and downs. I struggle with trying to find that balance. I struggle to find how I can eat healthy with my family instead of feeling like I'm always constantly doing something different, or how to fit it into my lifestyle. Like, this is what most people struggle with. This is the hard part. So don't be afraid to consider getting a coach to help you out and support you during this time. I know, especially during the reverse dieting process, when I was going from chronically undereating, it was so emotional for me. And I tried to do it all by myself. I completely screwed it up because it was going off of how I was feeling. And your emotions aren't always reality. I learned the hard way. Like when I go into a calorie deficit and when I go into reverse dieting and all that stuff, I always have a coach beside me, because Toby knows this because he's coached me. I'm an emotional human being. And I kind of need to be like, is what I'm feeling reality? Or am I kind of like creating a narrative in my mind and having somebody bounce that off and help me get through those moments? It's really, really beneficial right there. So if you're somebody that's like, yeah, that's me, consider getting a coach. It could help you out a lot and avoid some self-sabotage and get you where you need to be a lot faster. So that's about it. That's how you do it. Toby, do you have any final remarks?
No, just be prepared for this to take a lot longer than you want to.
Yeah.
Just like everything, like house projects, takes 20% longer than you planned and costs 20% more.
Yeah. I think another thing is that don't stop putting a timeline on this, guys. Like, if you truly want this to be a lifelong change,
It ends with the end of your life.
Yeah. Like we have to realize two things. One, if you want to stop the yo-yo dieting and stop with the drastic changes and constantly seeing results only to fall back and then feeling worse because you're doing all these quick fixes. Okay. You have to readjust your expectations of the timeline and what success looks like. Okay. A lot of times people are like, I want to learn how to get lifelong change. And then like, why am I not losing 10 pounds in 3 months or something like that? And it's like, okay, that was the expectations with your previous programs and coaches that you worked with. And you just said that you wanted something different. So we have to adjust what that timeline looks like. If you want it to be sustainable, if you want this to be a healthy approach that is going to be something that you can do for the rest of your life, we've got to realize it's going to take longer, but that's okay. Okay. That's okay. And the second thing is that this is not just a diet. Like if you truly want this to be a lifelong thing, you don't want to fall off. It's not about finding a strategic program or a quick fix pill or this perfect workout. It is, you have to make that mindset shift of I'm doing this thing to I'm becoming this person. This is an identity shift. The thing that you are missing that you need to have in order to create a lifelong change is this is an identity shift. I'm becoming this new person. If you're becoming this new person, there's no longer a timeline. If you always have a timeline, you're going to go back to what you were doing before, which is your current identity, which is what's creating the outcome that you want to improve upon. Okay, so throw away the timeline, adjust your expectations. Know it's going to take longer than what you expect, but the outcome is much better than what you're currently going through right now of seeing results, getting it back, seeing results, getting it back. You're just basically moving back and forth super, super fast and doing a lot of work not to really go anywhere, right? At least this approach will help you move forward and make you happier and healthier because of it. So I hope this helps. Toby, do you have anything else?
No. If you need help, hit us up.
Yeah, we got you. Again, if you want like a simple guide to walk you through this, I have a guide down there. There's a link to it, and it also has the TDE calculator in there. If you're looking to get that calculator, it's in that link, so you can find that in the show notes below. But if you ever have any questions, we've got that contact information below there too. Another thing is I just created a broadcast channel on Instagram, so you can join that. I plan on doing like weekly Q&As. Toby, you should create one too on your Instagram. I keep telling you that. It'd be a lot of fun. You can get into like what you like to geek out about. And so if you want to join that broadcast channel, because I'll be doing like giveaways, exclusive tips, Q&As on Friday. They're going to be anonymous. And by the way, it's not like an annoying group chat where it's like, bing, 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 bing. I would not create it if it was like that. I hate group chats with a passion. Okay. But it's like me being able to put things out. You can like things and I'll do like share pictures and voice messages. And I do like the Q&A is like through the anonymous Q&A thing where you just like click on a link and you put your questions in and then I answer it on, I think we'll do it on Fridays. I think that's when I'll do it. But if you want to join that, feel free to join. I'll put that link below. Toby, are you going to make one?
Maybe.
I think you should. I think it'd be pretty dope. I'd join. So if he does, I'll put the link down below for you guys to join. But other than that, we appreciate you. This is a good one. I love this one. This one was fun. Next week, what are we going to be talking about next week? What do you want to talk about? Ooh, we're still supposed to be talking about how to build muscle and lose fat at the same time.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Body recomposition. Okay, let's throw that out there. We're going to talk about body recomposition next week. Finally. All right, guys. We love and appreciate you as per usual. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.